My parents would totally lay into her for this since she was older than me. I wanted to express how much I admired her and how much I wanted to connect, but it felt like she always held some kind of resentment towards me. Melissa has always been the more extroverted one. She was totally into the arts, killing it in makeup and fashion. She was all about trying new hairstyles and collecting tattoos. So my mom got me into school pretty early, and eventually Melissa and I found ourselves in the same grade since my teachers thought I was ahead academically. Thank goodness we didn't end up in the same class. Melissa wasn't a fan of this and frequently viewed me as her rival since I had a stronger academic focus. It wasn't exactly a tough standard to meet since Melissa just had a strong aversion to homework, which made my fairly ordinary grades look impressive by comparison. I usually ended up with a blend of B's and A's, whereas Melissa generally scored C's and B's. She totally shines in art, drama, cooking, sewing, and dance. Growing up, I found myself falling in love with the violin thanks to my mother's encouragement, and I also dabbled in learning French and Korean. Melissa was totally immersed in the drama department at school, dedicating her evenings to rehearsing for plays. Her situation changed dramatically when she was removed from the drama team after a clash with other students. The whole situation blew up when Melissa found out her boyfriend was two-timing her with another girl from their department. Melissa chose to confront the girl by physically attacking her and then went ahead to set her bag ablaze. The whole situation resulted in Melissa getting kicked out of school, but honestly, it didn't lead to much after my parents had a chat with the principal and made things right with the girl. Honestly, I still can't recall all the specifics, but I definitely remember that she ended up having to redo 11th grade. She got a ton of lectures from our parents and was stuck grounded until she hit 18. This incident really took a toll on her relationship with our parents, and they were pretty disappointed in her for quite a while. The longest romantic relationship I've had lasted only 6 months, and you won't believe why. My sister is the reason for everything. I wasn't really out there searching for the one, but it seemed like every time I found a decent relationship, she would swoop in and try to mess it up. There was this one time I had a crush on a guy named David. We had been dating for 4 months, and things were definitely starting to get serious. Just when we were about to take that big step of meeting each other's parents, he suddenly ghosted me the night before. Blocked me on everything: phone, iMessage, Facebook, like I didn't even exist. I had no choice but to go over there in person, so I just showed up at his place without an invitation to have a chat. When I rolled up to David's place without giving him a heads up, he looked pretty taken aback to see me. I called him out for blocking me on all platforms and wanted to know what went down. David paused for a bit before finally confessing that my sister had contacted him, voicing her worries and recounting tales about my supposed history that painted me unfavorably. In a state of both frustration and disbelief, I pushed David to spill the beans about their chat. He disclosed that my sister informed him about my conversations with other guys while we were dating and that she discovered me sending inappropriate pictures to one of my male friends. I was totally cringing when I heard this. I attempted to share my perspective, countering the accusations my sister put forth, but David appeared to be unsure and bewildered. He asked me why my own sister would fabricate something so serious about me. I was on the verge of tears as I shared with him how my sister had always been envious of me and would do her best to sabotage my relationships. I seriously can't believe she would go to such lengths to fabricate those lies about me. The damage was already done, and even though I tried to fix things, he made it clear that he had reservations about moving forward because he didn't want to deal with someone who had a sister like Melissa causing drama. I totally get his perspective because honestly, if I had the option, I wouldn't want to be connected to her either. Feeling utterly crushed and annoyed, I called my sister out on what she did. After a ton of shouting, Melissa finally confessed that she felt insecure and jealous about me always dating attractive guys. She said it was always a breeze for me to attract guys, and she couldn't stand it. She claimed that she believed that I was too good for David, so she fabricated all those stories to push him away from me. I was really frustrated with her, and it became obvious that her behavior stemmed from her own unresolved jealousy issues. My parents totally called her out and explained just how messed up this was. Melissa appeared unfazed as she ultimately achieved her goal. David and I had ended things. This moment really changed everything for me. making me seriously consider the idea of leaving her behind. I came to a hard truth. If I ever wanted a real and lasting romantic relationship, I couldn't keep her around. We both had this awesome dream of studying abroad. She definitely had a lot of potential, but it felt like fear or not doing her own research pushed her to go for computer science here at home, just like our dad suggested. Seeing that made me realize I didn't want my folks shaping my future decisions. I put in a ton of effort to land a scholarship for studying overseas. So even though I tried my best, money issues held me back from going. So I settled for starting university here, majoring in what I really wanted. Still, after a year, my drive to go abroad didn't waver, and I continued to hunt for opportunities. Finally, I landed a scholarship and was able to head abroad to kick off my studies again. My parents were super bummed about me moving away. On my final night at home, Melissa expressed her regrets for everything she had put me through since we were kids. I'm not sure what made her act that way. Perhaps it was the thought of me moving so far away and her finally having our parents all to herself. I was over the drama, so I decided to let it go and forgive her. While I was off on my own studying abroad, I experienced a major transformation. I lost some pounds, connected with new folks, found my unique vibe, and boosted my self-assurance. Graduating was a big deal, but the year after was rough as I faced challenges in landing a job. Eventually, I landed a solid job and got my life on track. In the meantime, Melissa wrapped up her bachelor's degree back in our home country. She shared her desire to come and study for her master's in the United States. So I totally supported her decision. She began sending out applications to various universities for scholarships, but unfortunately, she faced a string of rejections. She began to feel increasingly annoyed. There was this time when she visited and ended up staying for 10 days. I got to show her around and everything. She noticed the shift in me, and every time she threw those snarky comments about my outfit or hairstyle, I just tuned her out. It was super strange how she felt the need to dictate what I should wear or how I should act in public whenever we went out for lunch. Whenever I had friends over, she would always express her disapproval, insisting that I should seek out better company. I've had moments where I'm just hanging out with my friends, and out of nowhere, she starts acting all strange for no clear reason. When I drove her to work and gave her a tour of my workplace, she was totally taken aback by the size of my office. I was super pumped to share how I had some cool new opportunities in my field, but then she just went silent and didn't even seem to care. Instead, she turned the focus onto herself, sharing her desire for similar opportunities and lamenting some of her previous decisions. So during dinner, she mentioned wanting to extend her vacation and keep living with me, but I realized I just couldn't handle her judgment anymore. I kindly suggested that it would be best for her to look for new accommodations if she wanted to extend her stay, since it was obvious there were some unresolved issues between us and she wasn't willing to discuss them. This is the moment when Melissa totally loses it. She began shouting at me, expressing her frustration about being fed up with my presence in her life. She complained that everyone constantly compares me to her and that her accomplishments never seem to satisfy anyone. I told her that I never treated her like that, and it was actually her who always made me feel less than. Melissa went on to say that I wasn't anything out of the ordinary and that she could have achieved the same things if she had been given the same chances. I explained to her that we had the same chances while growing up, and I put in the effort to apply for universities here and worked really hard to earn a scholarship. Meanwhile, she struggled to get one and was oddly placing the blame on me for her decisions. She got really angry and called me a spoiled brat, saying she wished I had never been born. The impact of those words was so intense that I immediately got up from the table and shut myself in my room. 2 days later, when she flew back without ever saying sorry, I could finally breathe easy. I came to see how much we had both evolved over the years, and honestly, I was starting to feel a bit annoyed by her presence. Eventually, I met my boyfriend Jason, who was in the same field as me. We kept running into each other constantly. So we had some friends in common, and at this get-together, we ended up meeting and sharing a few drinks. It was a blast chatting with someone who totally got my job, and I figured we'd just end up being friends. So it turns out he was into me and asked me out the very next day. We began our relationship and spent 2 years together before he popped the question. I'm pretty tight with his family since we're in the same country, and he's even met my parents over video calls. So we were in the midst of wedding planning when I got this job offer that would pay me twice what I was making at my current gig. The only thing was that the new company was located in California. I talked it over with my fiance, and we both felt this was a game-changing opportunity, so I went ahead and accepted the job. So I made the move back to California, and it was finally the moment when my family got to meet my fiance. My parents are totally into Jason, and now my dad's all about spending his Sundays golfing with him. Things were looking up with my new job, and eventually Jason landed a new gig too. During this time, Melissa completely ghosted me. She totally ghosted both me and Jason, even with my parents pushing for it. She always had some random excuse ready to bail on us. It had been ages since we last spoke, so I totally got why she was hesitant, and honestly, it didn't bother me at all. I was worried she might mess things up with Jason, just like she did with all my past relationships. After a few months of getting comfortable in California, Jason and I made the decision to tie the knot. We got plane tickets for his parents and grandparents so they could join us. We were aiming for a cozy wedding, just with family and our closest friends, followed by a brief honeymoon since we're both swamped with work right now. We decided to host our wedding in my parents' spacious backyard, and they were absolutely thrilled about it. Everyone from our grandparents to our friends took the mic, sharing heartfelt speeches that filled the room with love and good vibes. Melissa was the only one who didn't show up. So she said she was feeling feverish, which is why she couldn't make it. The food was absolutely amazing, and everyone was on the dance floor until midnight. What a night. We had an amazing time, and then Jason and I took off for our honeymoon. A week after our honeymoon, I was at my mom's place sharing some wedding photos when Melissa popped in unexpectedly. While I was chatting with my mom about how joyful the grandparents were at my wedding, Melissa jumped in and asked if Jason and I were facing any money issues. I chuckled and shared with her that I landed a way better paying gig now compared to before, and that Jason is also thriving. She totally roasted me by saying that maybe that wasn't true since I chose to tie the knot in our garden venue. My mom totally had my back and told Melissa that getting married in her backyard is perfectly fine, and that I preferred a smaller wedding, so it just made sense for me. I told Melissa I appreciated her concern, but Jason and I aren't into extravagant stuff, even with our good income. We believe in being smart with our money. Melissa totally flipped out when she heard this and accused me of just trying to show off like I always do, claiming I was probably lying about my salary here. I just shook my head and told her I didn't need to put on a show for her. We're not kids anymore after all. She really needs to mature and stop creating false assumptions or stories about me. I emphasized again that I'm really thankful she didn't attend my wedding. This really upset her and she left in tears. My mom really tried to calm things down, but Melissa just wouldn't hear it. Eventually, she shared with my grandparents and a few cousins how I was relieved she skipped my wedding and recounted other details from our argument. I sent her a text to apologize, but she completely ignored it. Throughout the years, I've made an effort to keep my distance from her, even though we did share some decent times together. Jason met her, and right off the bat, he just couldn't stand her. This happened because Melissa was always teasing him. So Jason and I are into Disney movies that Melissa thinks are super dull, and she goes on about how Jason might not be manly enough for her taste. I was really offended when she said that, but later she apologized to both me and Jason. Melissa has apparently told my mom multiple times that she believes Jason is trying to take charge of my life. When my mom brought it up, she said that every time she met Jason, she just got a really bad vibe from him. So there I was having lunch with my mom and Melissa, and out of nowhere, Melissa starts sharing all the drama she's been dealing with regarding her boyfriend, Lucas. So it turns out Lucas moved in with Melissa, but he ended up losing his job just 2 months later. Since then, he hasn't been working or contributing to any bills around the house. I told Melissa straight up that it was time to boot Lucas out of the house because he was obviously not pulling his weight around there. So Melissa just had to mention that I make more than Jason. Does that mean I should just boot him out too? I mentioned that even though I made more than my husband, he also had a solid income, and together we were both contributing to our household finances. He wasn't just lounging at home all day munching on chips and gaming. My mom was totally on board and shared with Melissa how Jason had given up his own career just so I could snag this lucrative job here. Melissa got really upset about it and began to express her belief that men should always be the ones making more money, questioning how Jason could be fine with this setup. I explained to her that not every guy has a delicate ego like the ones she's been with, and that Jason appreciates me for who I truly am. Melissa totally ignored the advice and ended up marrying Lucas, even though he was unemployed. Lucas definitely had a fiery side, and we all saw it at their wedding when we got a little too tipsy and decided to start a random altercation with a waiter. Melissa and a few of his brothers had to hold him back. I felt super awkward and honestly a little worried for Melissa. I figured she wouldn't take my advice anyway, so I decided to stay quiet. I've been observing that the arguments between Melissa and Lucas have been getting worse. It seems like every time they clash, Lucas ends up kicking her out, which means she has to crash at our parents' house. My parents are worried about her too, but Melissa just won't open up to them. So there was this day when we got the scoop from Lucas's mom that Melissa had supposedly been unfaithful to Lucas with one of her coworkers. After a massive blowout, they ultimately chose to navigate the challenges in their marriage together. They had even begun attending couple counseling sessions. This year, I discovered that I'm expecting a baby. Jason and I are absolutely thrilled. My parents were super excited and shared how thrilled they are to be becoming grandparents soon. They promised to have my back throughout the entire journey. As soon as Melissa found out I was expecting, she jumped right in asking my husband and me about the names we were considering and if we wanted her input. Jason and I tossed around some names, but I held back from sharing them with her because I was well aware of her tendency to judge. I made it clear with a strong no and explained that no name would be revealed until the baby arrives and the name is officially announced. Melissa was pretty adamant that this was a bad idea, insisting we should talk to other family members first to make sure we pick the best name for our baby. I made it clear that we didn't want anyone getting involved or meddling in our choice of name because this is our baby, and we're going to name it however we see fit. So when the baby shower rolled around, I had my mom take care of all the arrangements. I relied on my mom's instincts, and honestly, I just couldn't stand the whole planning thing. I also told my mom to let everyone know not to give me any gifts, since we still didn't find out the baby's gender. I was just looking to enjoy some quality time with my friends after ages and pick up some tips on motherhood. On the day of the baby shower, I was really happy to find out that my mom had invited only my close friends, which was perfect, and there were non-alcoholic drinks available for everyone. I was having an awesome time hanging out with my friends when Melissa rolled in rocking a shirt that said, "Godmother-to-be." I couldn't believe it. There was absolutely no chance I would ever consider her as my baby's godmother. It was kind of cringy when Melissa wouldn't stop going on about how she had always dreamed of being a godmother. It was really annoying that she didn't even bother to talk to me about it. So my mom decided to invite my husband, my dad, and Lucas to hang out later in the afternoon because we were about to discover the baby's gender. While Jason and I were slicing into the cake, we were totally blown away to discover that we were expecting a baby boy. I couldn't help but cry as my friends wrapped their arms around me. Out of nowhere, Melissa jumped up to declare that she had something super important to share. All conversation ceased, and everyone turned to her with intrigued expressions. She had this serious vibe going on as she pulled out a document and raised it for everyone to see. She then dropped the bomb that just a few days prior, I had supposedly taken a paternity test and discovered that Jason wasn't the father of my baby. She made a bold announcement that the test results showed a different father for the baby. The atmosphere turned tense, and you could see that my husband Jason was really shaken up. He glanced over at me while I was frozen in disbelief. Jason was curious about the situation and wanted to know if Melissa's claims were legit. I just shook my head and turned to Melissa, waiting for her to explain herself. My mom, totally convinced of her stance, grilled Melissa about what on earth she was doing and why she was fabricating such absurd stories. She grabbed the document from Melissa's hand and highlighted how the mother's name didn't even include mine. This is the moment when Melissa burst into laughter. My friend stared at me, completely confused. With a self-satisfied grin, she disclosed that she had snagged a phony paternity test online and concocted this scheme to make her point clear. She said she wanted to reveal Jason for what he really is and how he was absolutely abusive towards me. Everyone in the room was completely stunned and couldn't believe what they were seeing. I asked Melissa if she was thinking straight because my husband has never even raised his voice at me, much less been abusive. She began to express her belief that a guy couldn't possibly be content with his partner making more money than him, and she had long suspected that he was quite controlling. She shared some random examples and wrapped it up by highlighting how Jason reacted with anger when she initially brought up the paternity test. I shouted at her that the reason Jason was so angry was that she embarrassed me in front of everyone by saying my child wasn't his. I explained to her that my husband has never mistreated me or kept me out of our home, and it felt like she was projecting her own experiences onto me. I saw Melissa's face turn bright red from embarrassment. I went on about how tired I was of her constant jealousy throughout my life and how gross it was for her to ruin my baby shower like that. I told everyone that Melissa had a history of this and shared how she used to make up stories about me to my ex-boyfriends. Melissa was just standing there, totally embarrassed. My mom let her know that she really crossed the line this time. Suddenly, Lucas, her husband, who had been quiet up to that point, rose from his seat during the uncomfortable silence and approached Melissa. In a surprising twist, he passed her a stack of papers. The vibe went from awkward to complete mayhem as Melissa began grilling him about what was going on. Lucas explained to her that the marriage counseling was obviously failing, and he had come to the conclusion that they were just toxic for one another. He mentioned to Melissa that he had been thinking about divorce and intended to hand her the documents tonight. But since she had a knack for creating drama, he just couldn't face going back home with her. He straight up told her he was over her and all the drama, then just walked out of the baby shower like it was nothing. The atmosphere turned tense as Lucas's shocking news lingered, leaving everyone in a state of disbelief. Guests shot each other confused looks, not quite sure how to handle the surprising twist that just unfolded. Melissa was just standing there, totally shocked and at a loss for words, clutching the divorce papers like they were a bombshell revelation. Melissa's plan to steal the spotlight at the baby shower totally blew up in her face in a way no one saw coming. Instead of coming out on top, she ended up confronting the collapse of her own marriage. The vibe that used to be all about celebration now felt thick with tension, transforming what was supposed to be a happy event into something much more serious. Once the truth hit me, I knew I was over it all. I hit up Jason to walk me out of the event, and he was totally down for it. I gave my mom a hug before parting ways, and she promised to give me a call later to see how I'm doing. Melissa made an attempt to approach me and say sorry, but I didn't even give her a second look. Ever since that moment, I can't stop thinking about it. It's safe to say that people are pretty stunned by the recent events. I've been receiving calls from folks just wanting to see how I'm doing. I've heard from a few people that Melissa started crying as soon as I left the venue, and my parents just kicked her out without even giving her a chance to explain herself. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's lost me, my parents, and her husband now. I kind of regret yelling at her, even though I thought it was totally warranted at the time. Did I mess up by calling her out on her jealousy in front of everyone after she tried to pull a fake paternity test? Update one first off, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who took a moment to read and reply to my story. Your support means a lot. The flood of support, insights, and personal stories we've seen lately has been truly incredible. I'm really moved with the community vibe I've found during this tough time. This is my first time posting here, but after what happened with my sister, I feel like I could really use some outside perspective. What my sister did is undeniably strange and pretty awful, and I totally see where some of you are coming from in suggesting she might need to talk to someone about it. I really need to sit down with my parents and make the decision to cut her off for good. I can't let her act like this around my baby. Hey folks, just a quick update too for y'all all. It's been a whole month since my last update. I had a conversation with my parents regarding my sister, and they are on board with the decision to cut ties with her. It feels like the best choice for everyone involved. Melissa is totally unbothered and has been spreading the word about how I overreacted to her prank and mentioned her past in front of her husband, which led to their divorce. Lucas has since had a conversation with my parents and expressed his apologies for the way he treated Melissa before. He mentioned that the reason he would ask Melissa to leave their home wasn't due to any abuse on his part, but rather because during their arguments, she would hit and kick him in the face, making him feel unsafe in her presence. This was super surprising to us because I always figured Lucas was the one in the wrong, but then he shared photos of his busted nose and black eye. It's a good thing Lucas cared for her enough to keep things quiet. Otherwise, Melissa would probably be behind bars by now. Honestly, it seems like he and Melissa were in a pretty toxic relationship, so I'm actually relieved to hear they're getting a divorce. My parents had a serious conversation with Melissa and made it clear that she is no longer welcome at their home or mine. Melissa began her usual drama, but my mom was furious after what happened at my baby shower. She unleashed on Melissa, warning her that if she ever approached me or my baby again, she would be facing a restraining order. They insisted she should see a psychiatrist, as it was obvious something was off in her mind. Melissa has been adamant about not seeking help and has expressed to my parents that they are being unfair by showing me more favoritism than her. So I've cut her off from all my platforms, and Jason has done the same. We've set up security cameras around the house, so if she shows up here, I'll definitely be calling the cops. Hey everyone, just dropping in with an update after 8 months since my last one. I'm excited to share that I recently welcomed my baby boy into the world. The pregnancy was a real challenge, but I'm super happy that our little one has finally arrived. We've decided to call him Noah. Wow, I can hardly wrap my head around the fact that I'm officially a mom now. Our place is now filled with the joyful sounds and playful antics of our kiddos. Jason and I are navigating the wild ride of parenthood. And even though it's tough at times, we're soaking up every second with our little one. My parents have been super supportive every single day as I navigate this whole parenting thing. Jason's parents are coming over to visit us next month. Melissa hasn't bothered us at all. So the latest update is that she and Lucas split up, and now she's packing her stuff to move to a New Haven, probably looking to start over. It's tough that my sister can't join in on the celebration, but as a parent, my priority is to keep my little one safe.